Greetings, Goosebumps fans. Just to let you know, this episode of Goosebumps Crew does contain spoilers for Goosebumps The Vanishing. If you have not seen the show yet, click off this episode and go watch the show real quick, then come back and watch the episode.
The most thrilling, spine-tingling series ever.
From the pages of R.L. Stine's best-selling books,
And the screams go on forever and ever.
We now return to Goosebumps.
Greetings, Goosebumps fans, young and old, big and small, living dead and undead. Welcome back to the Goosebumps Crew Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Isaiah Vargas, and I'm joined by my good buddies Bjorn Palanick and Nick Shaw. We are the Goosebumps Crew, and we are back, as always, to talk some Goosebumps. If it is your first time joining us here on the Goosebumps Crew Podcast, I want to sincerely welcome you all. If you are, or have ever been a fan of the popular Goosebumps series of books, or the monster franchise that those books spawned, I have a feeling this podcast is going to be right up your alley. As I always say, me, Bjorn, and Nick are some of the biggest Goosebumps nerds on the entire planet. We could talk about Goosebumps for hours on end. That is exactly what we do here on this podcast. Every week we have a brand new episode, talk about everything Goosebumps, whether it be the books, TV shows, movies, video games, merchandise, whatever it is. If it has Goosebumps in the name, we're going to talk about it so much that you're going to find out that black goo is oozing from your eyes. Not related. With all that said, if you end up liking today's episode, make sure you will like and comment if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and hit that bell notification to get updates when new episodes go up every Wednesday at noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern. If you are dying to get those new episodes, however, you can catch the audio-only versions a day early. We're available on platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow us on the social media on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. You can also follow Bjorn and Nick at Goosebumps, Aussie Fan, and Sean, respectively, on their social medias and their YouTubes. All those links are in the description below, so check them out. Join the Goosebumps crew today, become a crew member. We thank you in advance for your support. So, we're talking once again about the new talk of the town, Goosebumps The Vanishing. It's been a month since the series dropped on Disney Plus and Hulu, and the buzz has still been going on about it. People are talking about it, talking about the things they liked and whatnot. And we're very, very, very pleased to revisit this season today because we have a very special guest joining us, a star from Goosebumps The Vanishing. We're very excited to introduce Miss Galilea La Salvia to the podcast. How you doing today?
I'm doing so great. I'm so excited.
Well, we're excited to have you and talk about The Vanishing a little bit. So welcome to the Goosebumps crew. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. And so we're going to talk about Goosebumps, of course, and your role in the new series. But first, I mean, you've been an actress for a while now, and you've done things other than Goosebumps. Can you tell us a little bit about how your acting career began?
Yeah, well, okay, this is like so crazy because I actually started out on Spanish soap operas. So something completely different from what I'm doing now. That is the beauty of acting, I suppose. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in Miami, Florida, and I did that, and then I kind of wanted to branch out, and I knew that, you know, acting was something that I wanted to pursue, and so I moved to California and kind of got a footing here. But I mean, horror is something that I've always wanted to do, and so Goosebumps is kind of like the first role where I feel like I'm just in my element. This is so great.
Definitely. And how did you get involved with the series? Did you go to an audition or were you approached? Yeah,
I mean, the audition process was kind of weird, actually, because I I got the audition in my email, and obviously the first thing I see is Goosebumps, and I'm like, oh my god, this is iconic. And I actually auditioned for the character of CC Brewer at first, and I didn't even play Frankie until my chemistry read with Sam McCarthy. And so I remember being extra nervous because I get a call from my agent and they're like, so they loved you. I'm like, oh, great. But they want to see you for a completely different role. And I'm like, oh, great. Easy. And so my first time playing Frankie, it was also a chemistry read, and Sam also had like the worst lighting available, and I could barely see his face, and I was started improvising, and it was such a weird like experience to go through. And I remember like I logged off and I was like, well, I hope they liked me, but honestly, idea. And then I got a call the day after, and they're like, well, you have to move to New York for 5 months. Oh, and you leave tomorrow, because it was like super short notice as well. I had to pack everything up.
Ooh, that is short notice from California to New York.
Everything rush.
I know. I mean, I love New York. I think after, I've always wanted to spend like an extended period of time there, and getting to shoot this show especially and experience like Goosebumps through the eyes of New York was something super cool, and honestly an experience I'll never forget.
Mm-hmm. It's really cool that it was actually in New York. That was actually going to be another one of my questions because, God, if I remember correctly, it takes place in Manhattan. So did they film in Manhattan?
I think it mainly takes place in Brooklyn, in like Gravesend. And like there's like trips to Manhattan, but I think it is a very Brooklyn-based show, which was really cool because usually when you're filming a TV show, you're just in a like soundstage all day, and it's such a different experience to actually live in the world and deal with real life while shooting, and especially New York, and you know how crazy New Yorkers can get. So I have some stories there. But yeah, it was just so nice being outside every day, and also kind of put me into the mindset of the character, because Frankie is very, she's a Brooklyn girl. She's working in the city, and it's like, I don't know. I really felt like I was living like her, which was very beneficial.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Well, and you live in New York, goo aliens are not really the craziest thing you'll see. No, not really. But so as you said, Goosebumps is iconic, and I'm very curious to know, did you know about Goosebumps before you got the role? Did you like grow up with the books at all or anything?
Oh my god, yeah, of course. I know Goosebumps through like the Scholastic Book Fair. I remember I would ask my mom for money just to like buy just little trinkets at the book fair, and books obviously, and I remember seeing them there, and I think just like the cover art was very eye-catching, so it was definitely something that you couldn't miss, and my friends were like super obsessed with it, and I just like, especially third grade. I don't know why third grade. I just remember like Goosebumps. It's so weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's when I got into it too. It was like second, third grade. It's like something about that time period. You just get hooked on those kinds of chapter books.
Yeah, it's like your brain is developing and wants something spooky.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
It's that cover art, man. We keep saying this time and time again. Like it was the cover art that like drew you in, and then obviously you read the book and you're like, wow, this is so amazing, I love it, obviously. Yeah,
at that time it was like Tim Jacobus who was like doing the cover art, and it was like, I don't know, I need posters of this stuff. It's so cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have it's times like this I wish I had more wall space, but like I have like a big print of Haunted Mask like right up there, and if I could I'd fill my whole room with them because it's so good. I mean, all the cover art.
Yet?
What was that?
Have you done the roof yet?
No, I haven't. You're right.
Well, there you go.
I need to decorate my roof. And you just lie in bed at night and just like look up and see all the Goosebumps cover arts.
Yeah.
Slappy when you're going to bed.
Oh yeah, definitely Slappy. Just have that face.
To shout out Tim, he does sell prints that he signs on his website.
Yep.
So
that's one of the ones I have. So
I'm purchasing. Thank
Did you have a favorite book that you can remember? Was there any one that ever like stood out to you?
I really liked the whole like Horrorland series because I'm a big fan of just creepy amusement parks at night, and for some reason that just like threw me in. And now I have this like weird obsession with like clowns and all that stuff. So I think that was like a big reason of it. But I mean, the show too, we worked really closely with Stay Out of the Basement. And I remember reading that over and over on set. And so that just holds like such a nice warm memory in my heart. So I think, yeah, I mean, there's a ton, and we worked with so many different books in this season, and I got them all, and I have like the collection of every single book that we referenced. So that was really fun reading those.
I was curious about that because when it came to the first season of this new show, we talked with Ben Cockel, who starred in that season, and we asked him too. We were like, "Did they have you like go back and read any of the books they were referencing?" Mm-hmm. I believe he said that they didn't for him, but he did anyway. He went and found like not even just the ones that they referenced, like just anyone that he can get his hands on.
Yeah, definitely. It wasn't even a requirement, but I'm just like, I'm such a like, I don't know. I love to do my research, and I love to know the world. And so I got this season's, and I also got a couple from last season's because I just really liked the Haunted Mask. And I thought that was really interesting. And I had watched the previous season also, and I just wanted to see the references and how like closely they followed it. So, I mean, that's just like the nerd in me. Like, it's not a requirement. It was just like me being crazy.
Yeah. No, hey,
I understand.
That's totally fine. You know, that we can relate.
Literally.
So now I got to ask about, your role in The Vanishing. And the first thing I'll ask is, what was it like getting to work? I mean, you got to work with many different co-stars on this season. And I want to know what it was like. Let's start off with your friend group, Sam, Jade, and Elijah, Stone, and Francesca. Like, what was it like working with all of them?
They were all so great. It was honestly, like, looking back, we were all just so new to living in New York. Well, besides Sam, he's like a local, but yeah, I think when we first got there, we were kind of all still getting to know each other, but we really bonded by just exploring the city, which was really fun. This one time I think our first outing ever, we went to Soho and we met up, and everyone wanted to do something different. And so we got completely lost and separated. And then by the end of the day, we got like back reunited. And we went to dinner and we just talked about what we did, which was so funny because we just all had a different experience. But yeah, so just exploring the city and also, bonding over like Goosebumps and horror in general. And I think we all love that kind of stuff, and we all love to spook each other out. So that was also really fun.
Definitely. I mean, it just seemed like
since you do like horror and a thing for clowns. Now, I will say, have you potentially tried to get a part on the Welcome to Derry show that they're trying to put together?
Yeah, that is happening, isn't it?
Oh,
yes.
Oh.
There's a prequel It series going to HBO Max.
Yeah, there's a prequel It series. Yep.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that.
And I do believe they did confirm Bill Skarsgård coming back for Pennywise as well.
Oh, dang.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
what?
Yeah. I'm pretty positive that got leaked, that he's confirmed. So.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
I feel like you'd be a good fit for that, wouldn't you think?
Kind of ideal.
Just saying.
Guys, you never know.
Yeah. Hey, we see you in that show. We'll be like, we were there. We were there that day.
Because of this.
But
yes.
Going back to the main point, I mean, it just seemed like you guys had like great chemistry on and off camera. I mean, like just seeing you guys just like make jokes and talk with each other, and then in the show, like you're a whole friend group and you're all in that together. It just seems like you guys have that really good chemistry amongst the six of you.
I personally really like the Goosebumps series Instagram where they showed a video of you guys choosing the shipping of either Trey or Devin and having to pick. You didn't pick. You went down and went to the middle. I felt that was cheating there, but
they were trying to, I wasn't gonna get caught slipping. I think Frankie has her decision to make, and I think it's just so funny because when you know them in real life. It's actually really funny because I think both Sam and Stoney were trying to like method act or something. So the first week they were like, should we actually beef, bro? Like, should we actually like have an issue with each other and then it could be like realistic on camera? And then I think they were trying it out and they ended up becoming like best friends, which is so funny. And they were like, yeah, bro, like my girl. And I'm over here like, dude, what are you doing?
I'm just like, what would they beef over? It's like, it seemed like they would get along great.
No, literally nothing. It would be made up. They would just, I don't know. They were like, this is important to our characters. We have to not get along. But they ended up just becoming best friends. It was great, honestly. It was a great thing.
Yeah, it just seems like you guys, like, whenever you guys are together, it just seems like you're having a great time, and that's wonderful. I just love that sort of camaraderie that you can have with your co-stars, both on camera and off camera. It's not like something where, like, once they say cut, it's just kind of like, well, I guess that's it,
I roll.
Yeah. But then we also got to talk about
over season 1 to season 2, where I actually really thought I'm not saying it just because you're here. I mean, I'm very honest about the first season and the second season when we do our reviews. So I like the chemistry though in this second season with the entire cast compared to the first one. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a big like Justin Long fan and Ben Hakel and a few others that were on season 1, but the chemistry between a lot of the characters didn't quite mesh as well, I thought, compared to what we got with this season. And I don't know if that's just because maybe the writing might have been a little better for everybody, or if it was just that thing. Like, sometimes you show up on set to meet your fellow cast members and then it just clicks. Because it definitely seems like, at least for this season, the promotional material after that's been out, like I mentioned, the video that Goosebumps series shared on their Instagram, they didn't really do that with season 1. It was mostly just like individual interviews almost, or just a grouping of like 2, and they did a little thing together, but it was never everybody.
Yeah.
So I think that's a testament to this season's cast, is that you guys seem to have a lot better chemistry with each other.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's always so different with each project that you come onto, and I feel like in this one we had like, I think at least 2 weeks before we actually started shooting, just to kind of prep our characters, and I remember they were still like storyboarding, and I would like watch everything come together, which was really cool. So I think those 2 weeks really gave us time to bond and get to know each other before we actually did start shooting. And I think that stuff like that is really important, because we are playing this like friend group who has known each other for years and has so much history. And so I think, that is part of the reason to why we just get along so great.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And
very good. Like, everyone I spoke to just said how fantastic this season was. Like, my sister, who's not really a big Goosebump fan, she binged the whole thing, and she just said, wow, I just love the characters and the chemistry everybody had, and it just really made it like feel like something she could watch, because she's never really been a fan of Goosebumps, but she really enjoyed this season. So she just watched the whole thing, binged it. And I said that from the beginning, this season was so binge worthy, like compared to season 1. So we loved it. It was so great.
It was great. Actually, going quick back to the whole Frankie Trey thing. I watched this season with a friend of mine, or like a friend group. they're not Goosebumps fans either, and they were completely blind. I had seen it once before already, and I swear, like, I just remember back to, I think it's the scene where Frankie's breaking up with Trey, because it's the night after, they go into Camp Nightmare, and they're just like, girl, leave him, girl. And then he does, and they're like, yeah.
Especially at the beginning, it's he goes through this whole like transformation. So by the end of it, I was kind of shocked to see like people were making edits of like his character, and they were like, the redemption arc, like, this is like, he's my favorite, like, they should have ended up together. And I'm like, okay, I see fake fans.
I'm like, well, let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
I have to ask, what team are you guys?
I don't know. At first I was like, well, clearly Devin's going to be the one that, that gets together. But then by the end, they're like being all like buddy with each other. And I'm like, I don't know which way is this going to go now. Well, because they start talking again after he, gets out of being comatose. And it's just kind of like, all right, I got to admit, this time I've been caught off guard.
So, I don't know. He was very, Trey was very douchey. They wrote him very douchey. So it made you want to hate him in the beginning. And when Brewer smashed the car window, you were like, yes. That was great. But it was like, yeah, I don't know. Later, it kind of was. It was kind of like, I like him now, but I was like, I don't know. I'm still a Devin fan in terms of if I had a ship, I guess.
I do kind of wish Devin didn't fumble
his character. His character was the same from beginning to end. He didn't have to be douchey and then become nice. He's just been the nice guy.
You're like, I don't give people a second chance.
Yeah. You have one chance and you blew it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of Brewer, we got
Bjorn. What about you? Hold on. Bjorn didn't say his.
Oh, well.
What do you got?
This is important.
I was kind of Devin from the very beginning. I mean, yeah, he's just a nice guy, and I like, basically you kind of answered it already, Nick. I thought that, Trey was a little douchey. I was like, I don't really like this guy. But
nobody likes Trey. Nobody likes Trey.
He did change,
Stoney, if you're watching this, man.
He turned over a new leaf in the end. But I don't know. There's something about Devin that, I don't know. He was very likable for me. I liked his character. So I think it would have been...
Yeah, it's just so funny because I hear these answers and I just think of them in like real life, and I'm like, but Stoney's so nice. But then I watch the series and I'm like, oh, yeah, wow, girl, get out. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So
I think even he was like, I think he even made a pose where he's just like, yeah, I don't like him either.
Yeah.
So at least he's self-aware about it. But...
No,
they made it clear that like Frankie had like broken up with him before, or said she was going to leave before. So it's a common trend, because even when she was talking with her mom, she joked about it, like, oh, again, or you for sure this time. So it's kind of a trend.
Kind of a trend.
Yeah.
That's how it goes when you're in a toxic relationship. They don't like man.
Yeah. But
when you get turned into a monster in a car and get put in a pod, it changes a person though. So,
but speaking of Brewer, I do need to ask about working with David Schwimmer, because he's obviously he's the big star. He's the guy who was like all over everything in this show. But he also just seems like he was an absolute delight. What was it like getting to work with him?
It was incredible. I mean, I'm such a big Friends fan. I would like play that series to fall asleep because I thought just his voice was so comforting. So that was a big shock to like walk onto set and be like, oh, hey, what's up? Like, this is crazy. And I remember being kind of like nervous because when you like know someone, you're kind of scared to meet them. But I didn't even know that he was on the show until I got the script. And when I got the script, I was already on the plane to New York. And so I remember sitting in my seat being like, oh my God, girl, David Schwimmer, this is crazy. What are you going to say? Don't make any references to Friends. Like, it'll go downhill if you just keep quoting him. That's not a good idea. But I met him, and he was just the sweetest person ever, and he was so welcoming, and he is so professional, and you can just tell that he's just, you know, a seasoned actor and knows what he's doing, and he's just like in a corner running his lines, and every time he walks onto set, he is just prepared. But just that is like, I don't know, that plus being so welcoming and such a good person, I'm like, oh man, you're just amazing.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he was a delight every scene he was in.
Yeah. I was going to say, I was wondering how that would go if you work with someone you've like watched on shows or movies, and all of a sudden now you're in a scene with them. It's
surreal.
I feel like that would be very, surreal, but very like daunting at the same time. Not to try to fumble your lines, not to try to overthink stuff, or, you know, it'd be very, very intimidating, I think, to do something like that.
Definitely.
And, you know, David Schwimmer is someone who just seems like so nice when you like see him in interviews and stuff like that. So you're like, how would he work in a horror show? And he does it. Like, honestly, he plays the nice dad, you know, very well. Definitely. It's like not even a question, but he can play creepy. He can be scary.
The switch.
No, and it's so funny because I think, you know, Goosebumps is also known for being horror and comedy. And I know that David has some really funny lines. I think one of my favorite lines of his was he was trying to find like what happened to Trey, and he was talking to Trey's dad. And he was being compared to like Jeffrey Dahmer. And he goes, yeah, I ate him.
You ate him. Delicious.
And I cracked up. I remember seeing that, and I was like, "This, oh my god, this is just so great."
I'm so glad, because I was gonna say like that was the line that like, because obviously I laugh, but it's just kind of like like that line came on, and I was howling with laughter. Like it was like so funny, and it's just the way that he delivers it, because he's got such that like he's got such like a normal sounding voice. I guess is the way I would put it. That like when he says stuff like completely out of pocket like that, it just is hilarious.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you mean. It's almost as if you're just not expecting it. You're just, oh wait, what? You just did a double take.
Yeah, it's just like, what did you just say? Like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's totally legit. And I was thinking that when you started saying that, I was like, oh, it's horror comedy. That is Goosebumps through and through. In the later books. So I was like that, you know, I feel like if you're just horror, it's hard to do horror comedy, but he's done comedy for most of his stuff. But it's funny to see like some actors who you never thought you'd see in horror, and they just excel at it. But that just goes with, I think, the seasoned actor. They can kind of pull that. But to dip his toe in horror, Goosebumps is a great place for him. Just based on his comedy that he had in Friends, I felt that fit very well. But I don't know how you could resist not putting some of the lines from Friends at him sometimes. Just, David, you need a pivot. Pivot, David.
No, insane. Just, you know, casually throw in but we were on a break whenever I come back into set. I'm like, what? I thought we had a break. We were on a break. What?
I was gonna even say like do something like internet meme worthy and just do like the get a load of this guy meme. That'd be funny. So my next question is, so you know, I'm curious to know what the filming process was like. You confirmed that a lot of this was filmed on location, not a ton of sound stages, a few, but you know, mostly on location. But what was it like filming? Like, was it super long hours?
It was a lot of night shoots, which was very, very cool, actually, because I love night shoots because I'm not a morning person, and I will just stay up until like 5 a.m. just on the on the daily basis. So I think production was really working with my schedule for the first time. So that was really fun. And it was a lot of locations. There was one time we shot at they rented out like a subway platform, and we got to shoot in a moving train car, which was, I think, one of my favorite days on set, because that was insane, especially just being in New York and on an actual subway and shooting a show like Goosebumps. It was just such a dream moment. So there was that, and then we had, Frankie's coffee shop that she worked at, that we would shut down for filming, and I would get weird stares because it was shut down for filming. Yeah. And then the scenes that were shot at sound stages was in the later episodes when they kind of go into this whole underground facility. So that was super cool because I kind of got to see the evolution of construction on the set and see how that was all built, and the pods and everything, and how they designed it and how they made it, and just how everything looked after the special effects were added in post. That was also really interesting. But I think the sets were just a huge part of this show, and just the special effects. There's also Fort Totten, which plays a huge part in the series, and that was actually kind of creepy in real life because you're just in the middle of like an abandoned military fort at 5 a.m. And it's actually spooky. It's actually spooky.
Did you ever get actually creeped out or scared during any part of the filming?
Well, there was on that set there was these huge tunnels that we would have to go through, and it would be, we would, I don't know why there wasn't another way around it. It was like, oh, you're going to have to go through the tunnel if you want to shoot this show. But it was so long. It was, I don't know, while I'm speaking, I'm low-key speaking with trauma right now. But, but if we wanted a snack too, we would have to go through that for Crafty. And it was pitch black, and we would have flashlights, and, I just remember, I don't know, maybe it was a coping mechanism. I would just sing, go through the tunnel, because I think the acoustics were really good. And maybe it just made me feel better. But that was genuinely spooky. And we would also play this game while we were going through the tunnels, which was, let's turn off our flashlights and let's walk blind, and it's honestly as if your eyes were closed. You would not see anything. So we would have our arms out in case we ran into a wall or each other. I don't know why we did that stuff. I think it was just 5 a.m. We were getting delirious, but it was a moment. It was a memory. I'm grateful.
Definitely. I sounds fun to me. Hopefully, you run into something that's not inhuman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're doing government testing down there. You never know what could be something done. But yeah, and I guess my next question kind of ties into it. But what's it like to just kind of film a horror feature? Show, movie, what's kind of the vibe between the process?
It's amazing, first of all. I mean, like I said, I've always wanted to do this genre, and I grew up on those 80s dark fantasy films where everything was just very eerie and spooky and just kind of creepy, and so I think that since it was something I've always wanted to do, I was just so happy to be there. And sometimes it's weird. Sometimes you will be having a blast, and then they're action, and you're okay, lock in. This is serious. You're about to be eaten by a monster. And then other times, if it was a harder scene to do, we would hype ourselves up, especially if we were running from something. We would do jumping jacks, and we'd be okay, this is serious. But I think it was really nice that our cast was very, very willing to act a fool, which is, I think, one of the most important things when it comes to acting, because technically you are playing pretend and you are acting silly to, people around, but to you it feels so real, and I think that is what really sells it. And especially on a show like Goosebumps, it's so cool because you get to run from these monsters and discover like new things and mysteries, and I think it's really important to believe it, and it sounds so silly because it's like, oh, well, we're just filming a TV show, but no, we're not, like this is important. And I think that our cast was really like able to do that and really immerse themselves. So I'm grateful for that.
And I think for a show like Goosebumps, like that sort of energy needs to be there, because you need to have, obviously, as an actor, you need to sell that these feelings, these emotions are genuine within the world of the show. So, you need to, especially with horror, when you are doing a lot of running from, big creepy monsters, you need to sell it. You need to like really, sell that you're being chased by something. And audiences sometimes can tell when somebody's not, when somebody's phoning it in. So it's important to really get that down in the process of filming. And especially for Goosebumps, like it needs to seem like it's fun, because Goosebumps is fun. Like no matter what you look at in terms of Goosebumps, like in the franchise, it has to be fun. If it's not fun, it's not Goosebumps. So
I agree.
Yep, and
there's a lot of running in Goosebumps.
Yeah.
I mean, you think back to the original '90s show. There's whole scenes where it's just nothing but running and running and running. And
Well,
even
running cases.
yeah,
There's always
and
running
even
down
R.L.
big
Stine
giant-
himself has said he's had to cut down on the amount of running in his books sometimes.
That's interesting because, you say Stine in his books. I actually think Stine has said he's never written a story in New York. Like, as far as like his stories go,
Really?
they're always somewhere else. Yeah, he's never written a story that's taken place in New York. So it was really interesting that the show did that, and it's because he lives there. And I think he just doesn't want to write a story about a place where he lives,
He's like,
which is really funny in its own right. But that's kind of funny. Like, it's in New York. Did Stine ever happen to come to set while you guys were there?
No, unfortunately, I really wanted him to, but I think my only interaction with R.L. Stine was, my cousin got me like the Stay Out of the Basement book, and just when she heard that I booked this job, and she was DMing R.L. Stine, and she was like, "My cousin is on your show. Can you sign that?" And I was like, "Girl, I think he's on Instagram," which he is, but I don't think he's like checking his DMs like that. And I think I was right because he never responded. But I think that's just
You'd be surprised. Now, I think he's mostly on Facebook more than anything, because I've reached out
Twitter.
trying to get him on the podcast before. He does respond on occasion. It may take a little while, but
Facebook.
Instagram's not, I don't think, his main one, but Facebook. Tell her next time, go to Facebook.
Yeah, well, we got to get you a signed book by R.L. Stine. That's like the biggest treasure.
Now I'm like building my collection so I can give him like a couple different copies.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You're becoming a collector. You're like us now.
Next
One of us. One of us.
rounds.
Yeah. You'll get there. But so, we talk about, like all the scary stuff. Is there anything that personally scares you?
Ooh. Gosh. Honestly, I'm not the best swimmer. Is kind of scary. So like I think the ocean is probably one of my biggest fears because it's also been unexplored. You don't know what's down there. I don't know what's down there. It's pretty scary, and I would just prefer to stay away from it. Even though I grew up in Miami, and so you would think that I'm like surfer girl, woo, love that, but no, just not in me.
Yeah. No, you see the video, you see those documentaries of things that are living in the ocean and stuff like that, and you're just like, no, thank you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And again, like you said, that's what we know about.
Yeah.
We still discover
you don't know what's living down there.
Bjorn
Have you not
lives in
seen
Australia,
Meg?
so
Have you not seen Meg?
everything there tries to kill you.
Oh my gosh.
Love it here. They just discovered a new species of funnel web, which is basically a funnel web but a lot bigger, which is like the most dangerous spider in the world. One bite, and unless you got an ambulance standing by, you are gone. And I'm like, well, that's nice to know. And people are finding them in their shoes and in their homes. Like,
Oh no!
lovely to find that out.
Not in my shoes.
It's called the Sydney funnel web, but
Arachnophobia.
they're around
All
here
over.
because
I'm not even
I love
scared of spiders, and I don't want to find one in my shoe.
Yeah, but I've grown to love spiders. Jumping spiders are adorable, and I have grown to love spiders. But Sydney funnel web, no, that thing's just ugly, scary. I swear it hisses at you when you walk past one.
Well, see, you like spiders because there's just as many
Like-
spider population as there is people in Australia. So-
Yeah, we have everything. If it's not killing you in the ocean, it's on the land or in the creek. You go swimming up north and you'll get eaten by a crocodile. I mean, you can't really
Wow.
escape anything, you
Kids,
know?
the moral is don't go to Australia. Stay away.
Yeah. Honestly,
Yeah.
we're so happy you're here.
Yeah.
Lucky. 3 in 5 homes have a snake in the roof, so
Oh, God.
I know I've got one in my roof because I heard one up there, and I heard a mouse squeaking, and then it kind of we heard the snake.
Then it was gone.
Pest control.
I know what's
Yeah, pest control.
I don't think I would survive a day.
No, me neither.
You know,
There's
it's funny,
nice
like-
areas too.
They're built
I was gonna
different.
say it's funny because like we actually have had guests on. Catherine Short was one of them who said she had been to Australia and actually really loved it. I think if you visit there, that's the key. If you visit there, it's fine. But if you want to live there, you probably won't live long there.
Yeah. It might be the hot sun or something in the ocean because you got the box jellyfish. There's a lot of things here.
Well, you know what? I think I mentioned this once. I once got asked, what's scarier, the ocean or space? And I'm like, space is scary. Like, you're drifting off into space. That's scary. But again, you don't know what's living in the ocean, and that's our planet. So,
Yeah.
like, space, that's out there. That's all the way out there. I mean, unless they come here, which I certainly hope not.
Don't worry about that yet.
Yeah, not yet.
I
at least,
agree.
hopefully not the kind in this show that, like, make goo come out of your eyes and stuff like that.
The ocean is.
I don't know. Apparently they were really nice. They took the vanished with them in the end. So
Yeah, they went with them.
Popular opinion, I thought like the end creatures, the little like those. I
Yeah.
thought they were pretty cute.
Yeah, they were pretty neat, weren't they?
My dog.
So my daughter said she thought those looked like Demogorgons from Stranger Things,
Yes.
and I was like,
that.
all right, I can see that.
but the much cuter version. I don't.
They make the little clicking noises, and it's like, oh, that's kind
Yeah. Also, kind of like the noises also kind of reminded me of like The Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Like a pastiche of
I agree.
the popular sort of monsters nowadays in these long-running shows.
They're so cool, and those were like interacting with them while we were shooting was cool because they were just people in these like suits, and they have these arm stilts, and they would be charging at you, and it was just honestly pretty scary because they just looked like this whole creature. They were incredible at their job, honestly.
Yeah, I think I've seen that before. Like where you need to like have elongated arms to sort
Yes.
of replicate that sort of on all fours motion. They have those sort of sticks, and it can look pretty uncanny. Even on the green screen, because they're covered in green screen suits, so they already look uncanny to begin with. So I gotta ask about one scene. We're talking about monsters, and you're in a scene where Trey goes into the basement, and he's not supposed to. Stay out of the basement. And he supposedly emerges as this gross, slimy creature. And I gotta ask, what was it like with that thing?
That thing. Oh gosh, it was actually insane. I remember before even seeing that creature and what it was, I remember smelling that creature, and I don't know if it was a mixture of like the latex or the black goo that they just put on this poor man in this suit. But it was honestly so cool. I just felt bad for the actor because bathroom breaks were really hard. And it was also just so funny because we would be shooting this like super dramatic scene, and then we'd go to Crafty and have a chat, and he would tell me about, you know, his kids, and I'm like, oh, great, you know what I mean? And I'm just like, yo, I'm bonding with this monster. We're buddy now. It's so great. Yeah, I mean, I love that kind of stuff. I love working with gross looking creatures, and you know, I had to like scrape parts of him off, and it was pieces of flesh and that whole like gore, and it was just so incredible and something that I've like never done before. So I was having a blast.
It was awesome. I'm in my head, I'm like, am I like disturbed in the head that I'm really enjoying this?
No, because
body horror is huge in this season compared to the first one. So yeah, when you were scraping, I was like, oh, it's like that's is that muscle tissue under that?
Well, it's like also like you don't know yet that's like, because you think that's Trey, like you think that like little flower like did that to him and his like flesh is melting off, so it's like, oh my god, that's a person.
yeah honestly, I think that's also one of my like the favorite scenes for me to shoot, because it was just so iconically Goosebumps for me, and I was like, this is so great.
I agree.
So is there 100% story out of this season that you liked the most
from the books that referenced?
From the books that they adapted to this season. Because we had Stay Out of the Basement. It was only revealed, I think, a few days after the full season had come out, but the last episode was Invasion of the Body Squeezers, which was the Series 2000 story, which was really interesting that they went with that. But we kind of figured that's what it was. But I mean, they had Camp Nightmare, which is a fan favorite. And I was just kind of curious if this season there was a particular book adaptation that you liked more than the others.
I think they did a great job with kind of adapting them and putting like Easter eggs into the show. I think I really liked like the Ghost Next Door reference with Hannah and the whole, like, I thought that was a really cool plot twist of her just, oh my god, guys, spoilers. Of her. Sorry.
Nope, all good.
And then also just, I think the haunted car episode was really cool, because just seeing that like come to life, and that whole action sequence with, you know, Francesca in the car. And I remember her just like telling me about it, because she was like, oh my god, it was so cool. We were like racing down like this road, and then the car like splashed into the river and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh my god, like it was amazing. But yeah, and oh my god. No, now I'm just like thinking of so many books, because like Monster Blood 2 with the whole creature that, like, I think to me that was like the scariest creature if it were real. Like, I don't think I'd survive that, because how do you even fight that? It was like electricity. It was so, I was like, no, I'm dying. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely a lot of favorites.
Definitely. And I'm glad, you know, Monster Boy got brought up, because that whole just chase sequence, you know, from the apartment to the subway, which, you know, you brought up already, but like just that whole sequence of them being chased by this unstoppable, like, just blob is pretty terrifying, and it was done really, really well.
It was.
It's a really tense scene.
And just when you think, all right, boom.
Nope, that's the Goosebumps way. Is like, you don't. Honestly, that's the horror way. It's like, don't ever think the monster's gone, because it could come back when you least expect it.
Definitely.
They did well with the references in this one compared to season one. I was so excited when they actually had the Camp Night Moon like scene with the counselor and the kids. I was like, wow, this is so good, because that was my favorite episode from the original TV series. So I was really excited when they actually did that. for the Camp Nightmare episode, when they actually did the whole like actual dressed up in their camp outfits and stuff. So that was really nice that they did that.
Yeah.
I really loved kind of like every like flashback that they did within the season, and even the whole, like, I think it was episode 6 where they just did a whole like VHS thing. Because I'm just a big fan of like analog horror on YouTube and just ARGs and stuff like that, and so that was really reminiscent of that, and I just thought that it was amazing and so well executed. And also, you know, Eduardo Sanchez, who did the Blair Witch Project, was directing it, and the perfect match. And that is honestly one of my favorite episodes.
It's my favorite episode, and it really is good. And I'm so glad that they got Eduardo to direct that episode, or even just those segments, because you're right. He's like the perfect person to get for that found footage analog horror style. And it's also the first time where we like get to see inside, like what is inside of that hatch, and doing it in that, you know, handheld camera style in the dark, like you're just the POV of one character helpless, and then you see those pods with all the, you know, like Maddie and his friends in there. It's haunting. It really is. And then that's also the first time you see one of the little alien creatures, and it's just kind of like lurking in the background in the darkness, and you just hear the it's creepy. It's great.
Yeah, that's one thing I really thought our conversation when we did a review on this kind of sparked the imagination. I was like, well, if they got him for this episode, I was like, what if they just got other horror directors? Imagine James Wan doing an episode next season, and, you know, Guillermo del Toro, you know, just all these other horror legend directors maybe come on to do an episode in their style, you know, for that. Because, I mean, that worked out very well, and it is a fan favorite episode. And I think it's because of that reason that he directed it, because he's obviously very adept in this. I mean, he did Blair Witch, so it makes total sense. Yeah. So yeah, very, very interested to see if they do get a third season, if they continue that trend.
I hope so.
Yep, definitely. So I actually got this question, and I didn't know about this, but I just wanted to ask this. Somebody asked that there was apparently a crab on set named Gerald. Is that true?
I'm going to assume so.
Yes.
Really?
Asked this. This is crazy. There was okay. So I don't even know how to explain this. So we had we were shooting at, I think, that same like Fort Totten place, and me, Francesca, and Jaden had like this super long break, and we were just wandering. And this fort is kind of by the water, and we were sitting on the rocks. We were just having this like super deep conversation, and then I spot like a little like baby crab, and I'm like, oh my god, guys, come here, there's a baby crab, and I pick it up, and it had unfortunately passed.
Oh no.
The little shell, and I was like, oh my god, like we have to keep him. And so I carried him back to my trailer, and you know, the girls were with me, and we were kind of washing him off, and we named him after our like favorite camera guy on set, Gerard, and we showed it to him. We're like, this is a little gift, and I'm sure he thought that we were so weird for that, but he appreciated it, and I kept him. I brought him home to my like New York apartment, and I was trying to like take him back with me to California, and he unfortunately did not survive the trip. I don't know where he is now, but long live Gerard.
Long live Gerard. They should have a memoriam in the credits.
They can do.
Yeah.
That's so funny you got that question.
I know. I was like, I don't even know like how that came about, but I was just like, really? There was a crab? I was like, I have to ask.
I don't know how they know that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm wondering how they know that, unless this was someone who worked on the show and just
Like
happened to submit the question.
Oh,
Yeah, maybe Gerard himself.
his says season 3. Season
Yeah.
3.
Yeah, definitely.
So-
Man.
Speaking of the crew, any particular highlights from the crew that worked on the show? Any people who worked behind the scenes that you feel did a really good job?
Oh my god, the VFX people were absolutely insane, and I feel so bad because I kept on asking them so many questions. I'm like, what does this do? What does this do? They would when we would film kind of a scene that required any sort of like effects afterwards, they would call balls and charts, and it was just like they would bring out like a chart and had a bunch of colors to like color match it, and this like sphere, and it was one side was super reflective and shiny, and then the other was matte, and they would like do this to the camera, and I'm like, what's going on? What are you doing? And they explained it to me like so many times, and I still don't understand, but it was really, really fun. And so shout out to them because they did an incredible job.
Definitely. I love the VFX that they did for both practical creatures and, CG when they had to use it, mostly for like the bigger monsters, the aliens and whatnot. It really worked. It looked pretty good in my personal opinion. So I definitely shout that. They did a great job.
Yeah, no, because I agree. That's one thing that I think it gets lost in a lot of current movies and TV media is practical effects. Everybody relies so heavily on visual effects now.
Yes.
Yeah, especially, and horror needs it the most compared to others, I think, because for actors especially, a lot of them they say it's kind of difficult sometimes when it's just like a ball on a stick and it's supposed to be this monster and there's just a guy holding it and you're supposed to react a certain way, and it's like, this looks goofy as crap. I don't know how I can do it, but I do it, and I'm just like, yeah, no, I get it. Because imagine like back then if it was Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger and then most of it's CG on him, so it's just a guy there going it's not as scary. So I totally love the practical effects, like the fact that they actually did a suit for Trey's monster. It looked really cool. And I think I saw where they were trying to model it after the mud monster from You Can't Scare Me, which is great.
Or even David's hanging eyeball.
I was going to say the hanging eyeball that David was wearing. That was cool.
No, also his head, David Schwimmer's head was practical effects, and obviously they they did some CGI for like him speaking and moving, but like the actual head was real. And I remember walking onto set and being like, what is going on? This is insane. But yeah, I think as an actor, like you're always so grateful to have something to react to, and so I'm really grateful that they did use a bunch of practical effects, especially going back to like my 80s references of like those like spooky movies. Like I would watch behind the scenes on that, and you would actually see these monsters in real life, and I just felt like as an actor you must feel so immersed in that, and that's just so great to have actually something there to react to.
Definitely. And also, those pods in like the facility, those pods are real, and I've seen tons of pictures about them. Like those look really cool to be in.
No, I'm like on set with my film camera trying to like capture everything. It's so great.
It's awesome. Were those pictures, by the way, were they shot with like an older camera or like sort of like a handheld camera? Because they even kind of look like sort of like pictures you'd find in the 90s. Was that intentional or not?
Yeah, I mean, which ones are you talking about? Because there's like some that like Goosebumps posted, but I have like my film account thing where I'm like posting a bunch of
your film account, yeah.
Yeah, the film account, I have an Olympus OM10, and it's just like an SLR camera wind up, and so I was bringing that around. And then I also had like a small point and shoot for like night shoots because the flash would be stronger. So yeah, and it was so funny because I was like the designated photographer on set. They'd be like, Kelly, come take a picture. I'm like, I'm here with my camera. And I would hide in scenes. So usually if you're watching a scene and like, if it's the Brewer house or something, my film camera is actually behind a pillow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I always like hide it somewhere. And I've actually lost it a couple times because I hid it once in a cart that they like took away. And I was like, does anyone know where that cart went? And they're like, why? I'm like, don't worry about it. I just really need to know.
We're gonna lose history. We're talking about right here. I'm so glad you took those pictures, though. It's just so cool to like just see all those different aspects of the sets and the behind the scenes, and just the interaction between the cast and the crew. Like that's always the best part of like seeing
one
a
thing
production.
that the '90s show did not have the budget for. We found out as we've been talking to cast and crew from that show. So, because we asked why there's no like behind the scenes featurettes, why there's no photos, and the photos come later because of people like yourself who worked on the show who just took pictures or their spouses took pictures. That's the only thing that we have for the 90s show now. To show behind the scenes of like, Carly Beth wearing the mask, getting her makeup touched up, or Mr. Mortman's headpiece, and smiling next to another headpiece of himself, weird things like that we're coming to light 30 plus years later. So who knows, in 30 plus years from now, those photos might be something that another Goosebumps podcast or whatever the stage of podcasting is, might reference to say, oh yeah, Galilea took these, check this out. You never know. It's so crazy.
I hope so. I hope they serve for something. I mean, I've always been like, I think any film that I watch, I'm the type of girl to go on YouTube and search up behind the scenes or just like try to find any media, especially if I loved watching it and I just kind of feel like I need more of it. And so that's just kind of my little like gift, I guess, in a way. But yeah, I think just because I'm a person that appreciates that, like I wanted to, I also just love film photography and just I see a cool thing and I want to take a photo. It's just like in me. So,
movie making is fantastic. Movie making has so many different aspects to it. It's like it's the most incredible thing. Like I feel the same way. Like whenever I see like a film set and just like what it all takes to make a scene, just to make a single scene, like people forget. Like when it comes to like even lighting. Like lighting itself takes like tons of equipment to get it right. So it's just such a phenomenal process of creating something, a movie or a show, whatever it may be.
Yeah, and speaking of lighting, like when we would shoot at night on the street, like I didn't realize how much work was put into making the environment feel so eerie. So they would wet the sidewalk so it could be like reflective, and they would have this huge blue light just casting over the entire set, and they'd have a fog machine. And it really, I remember, because we have our little green room, so you would walk out to see the set and I'd be like, whoa, this just got like transformed. Like suddenly this is Goosebumps. This is insane. So like you don't realize the amount of work and how detailed people are with their jobs. It really just like you would know if they weren't there, like watching it, you'd be like, it doesn't feel the same. And that's why, because people like that, they just have so much love for it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
100%.
I mean, shout out to
even
incredible.
Like, I don't know if you remember the show Animorphs from the 90s. Like
the books?
Yep, there was a 90s TV series
show
based on the books back then.
Oh my god, I know the books. Those book covers are crazy.
They're crazy, right? And some of them are just kind of outrageous, ridiculous. Like no one's going to turn to a starfish, I don't think. But because it's not Finding
starfish.
Nemo. Not going to be the awesome starfish from Finding Nemo. It's definitely not going to be that scenario. But the show back then wasn't shot at night, and I'm guessing that had to do a lot with the fact that they actually used kids. So like they probably had a curfew per se or a time cutoff where they were allowed to film. Yeah. So you could definitely tell back then when they were doing night scenes, they were definitely shooting during the day. They just put like a night filter over it. because their shadows were ridiculous on the ground. Like that was definitely like it was sunny as crap out that day when you're shooting a nighttime scene.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
Like me on iMovie trying to make just a feature film.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I have a blue filter on, and I'm like, yeah, it works.
Yep.
We're good. Yep.
Well, that's the thing. It's like you know, when you're younger and you're like, I want to make movies. And I was definitely like this as a kid. It's like, you know, you make your little home movies and they look nice. But, you know, sometimes people forget that how there's a lot of work that goes into the film business. A lot of work. There's like hundreds of people working on even if it's a short film, like just hundreds of hardworking people who are, you know, working days and nights, sometimes to the bone, to make a good product. And it can show. It really does show. Like you can tell when a product has a lot of passion put into it. It shows on the screen.
I agree.
That's one thing for sure. I'll give them credit to the first season for that too. The lighting and photography for both seasons was excellent. Like while the story is much better in season 2, I don't know if they kept the same lighting and production crew for both, but I thought they were both fantastic. Like they really set a scene based on what you want to do. I mean, whether it's you guys in his dad's workshop in the garage where it was a little bit better lit, you know, kind of set a tone for this, or if you're going to Camp Nightmare, you know, and it's obviously a darker tinge and spooky. They really capture an atmosphere depending on where you're at.
Or the basement with the greens and the purples and all that. That's my personal favorite.
Yeah, the basement set was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Love the basement set.
Was it fun getting carried out of the basement from the house? How many times did you actually have to be carried, I wonder, to reset?
It's so funny because that actually wasn't me. That was my stunt double.
Really?
No?
Yeah. I don't think like they didn't let me do it.
Really?
Sometimes they're very
Kind of a bummer.
strict with that kind of stuff because like I'm the type of person to be like, no, like I want to do all my own stunts, and then they're like, Gallie, you're crazy. We need you. So yeah, no, we had an amazing stunt team and stunt coordinator, and so that was her. So props to her. But yeah, I got to do kind of the rest of it where I was just like scraping the poor dude's back.
Yeah, crush him with a car and just...
You know, I pulled a lever. I did my job.
Did they actually drop a car or was that CG?
That was CGI, yeah. I know. I wanted it too. I was like, okay. And it was so funny because we had to react to it and we all had to like, you know, look down at the same time so it looked realistic, and it took a couple takes, but it was really fun.
Yeah, that was just a great scene. It's kind of like an oh wow sort of scene because you're just like you don't expect it, and then it's just like
yeah.
The work they got to do at these stunt doubles. I love that meme that goes around though, and it's like the iconic one now. It's like Tom Cruise's stunt double, but it's just Tom Cruise sitting on like a big tall building. I'm like, yeah, literally.
That is so funny. No, honestly, it would be me.
My next question is did you get to keep anything from set as like a souvenir, or did they give you any like parting gifts when filming had wrapped?
We actually did. We got to keep kind of like the back of our chairs that said like our character names, and it said Goosebumps on it, so that was really cute. And then I also just went into the wardrobe trailer and I was like, can I keep a couple stuff? And they're like, yeah. And then we got a trip.
That's awesome.
Clothes. But yeah, but my suitcase was so full just from like living in New York for 5 months that I was like, I don't have space for anything, because if not I probably would have like stolen a couple things. But yeah.
I don't say you didn't keep any scraped pieces or
pieces of
right? Kept like a piece of flesh or like a bag of goo. I think that would have been cooler.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would have kept like the gross things, just been like memories.
Yeah.
Good time.
That represents Goosebumps to a T. I mean, when we had when we had Ben Cockell on here, he played Harold Biddle in season 1. We asked him the same thing, and he got to keep the back of his chair. But the one thing he did get to keep, did you get to watch season 1 before coming into season 2? By the way, okay. So remember, like when he showed himself, and it was the burned version of himself.
Yeah.
So he got to keep the prosthetic burn pieces that he got to wear.
Whoa!
And he's showing those. I was like, oh, that's so gnarly.
That's so
because they look gross.
That's amazing. Oh my god, yeah. No, that's nothing. That's nothing compared to like I just got to keep clothes, and he's like, yeah, I got to keep like.
He showed us he keeps it in a bag, and it's like so gross looking. It's just like, yep, this is my burnt flesh in a bag.
I love it.
I love that too. I would do that 100%.
I'm wondering if you got to keep some scraped pieces, or some black goo somewhere, or maybe if you stole the prosthetic eye piece that David had.
Stole David's eye.
Yeah.
Such a good souvenir. Cool. I should have asked for that. Maybe David has it. We'll have to ask.
I would sure hope so. Could you imagine he just has it like on a mantle somewhere, just his disembodied eye
on display, proper case and everything.
And people come in and be like, "What is that?"
All his like Friends awards, and then he just has an eye like right there next to it, like
his head.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been a cool piece to keep, since it was actually a replica of his head. I don't know. It'd be would it be weird if you kept a thing of your own head that they gave you? I don't know.
I'd vibe with it.
I would bet did it.
Yeah, well, that's true. Catherine Long kept hers. So,
you guys got to do a lot of press for this season. Like, you guys got to go to all these different places. You guys got to go to the Mets game and do a whole thing there. There was this big photo shoot with I don't even know where it was, but it was like a big like stay out of the basement with like yellow tape across from it. Like just so many cool things. What was like the best parts of the press tour?
Guys, that was hilarious.
Yeah, that was great.
That plant guy who was planted there.
That was a photo op that they had that they like set up, and they scared us. They got us so good. But I think it was also interactive too, so anyone could just ring the doorbell and like a noise would play, and I heard like my own scream in there as well, which was really funny. But yeah, that was really fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, were there like any other like highlights from the tour of press on this season for you?
Oh my gosh, Comic-Con was a big one. I've always wanted to go to Comic-Con, and it was my first time there, and just having it be my first time and also being like on a panel was crazy. So that was really fun. And then we were begging for some time to just like walk around and see cool stuff. So that was just such a nice moment.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it just seemed like there was so much like cool stuff. And then also there was a bunch of like little tie-in promotions for the season. So I'm curious to know, what did you think of like some of the cool drinks that came out for Goosebumps The Vanishing? Of course, we got the Pure Green Botanist Blend and the Better Booch Kombucha and the matcha from Teaspoonful.
I have my souvenir cups. I'm such a big matcha fan, and so I didn't even know they were coming out with that until I saw the post, and I was like, what? Without telling me? Are you guys crazy? So I think I ran to my nearest teaspoon and I got that, and it was actually so good, and it had boba in it, and I didn't even like boba, and it made me like boba. Insane.
That's the power of Goosebumps. It makes you like boba.
So good.
I don't know, because I got the kombucha, and I don't like kombucha. That one's okay. I will say maybe it's because they put like fall spices type thing in it, so it was not terrible. But I had my daughter try it, and yeah, she didn't like it either. But she and some other people had said like it tastes like beer. So my first question to her, of course, was like, "How do you know what beer tastes like? You're 15."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Turns out she accidentally took a drink out of her stepdad Stanley, and that's happened before, so that's fine. I'll believe her on that standpoint. But the fact remains, yeah, kombucha itself not good.
I don't know how
but
Cece could drink all
I'd
that
rather
kombucha.
be chased by. I think I'd rather be chased by the monster blood in the show than to drink more kombucha. Just
Honestly, yeah. I mean, I'm not a fan of kombucha either, so we're gonna have to get CC to review it.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna say, like, she drinks it every day, apparently.
Drink kombucha, or if that was something else in the show. Like, do you know if that was actually? Did they make her drink kombucha? It was like, because she had to drink like a lot. She always seemed to have it on her.
Yeah. She drank it like every scene.
I think it was another thing. I don't know what it was. It was not kombucha.
Ugh.
Okay.
Probably for the best.
Yeah. Who knows how
Sounds, yeah.
of that before maybe turning into a monster.
Yeah. So I guess a few more questions before we wrap things up. So, all said and done, like, Goosebumps: The Vanishing is out now. All said and done now, like, what's your personal
Book.
experience?
It came out today.
That's
So,
I'm gonna get my copy.
Yep.
yeah, it came off Amazon truck today. So I'm assuming it came out officially yesterday.
Today, technically.
I haven't had a chance to actually read it yet because I just got it today. But
So I just wanted to know.
a new bonus ending. So I don't know. Maybe we'll see if it's Trey or Devin. Who'd she pick? We'll find out.
Wait, they have an ending?
Apparently, there's
It
like a
does say
bonus
it
ending,
includes a
so
new
like you're
bonus
gonna
ending.
probably find out what happens after the ending of the show.
Wait, that's so interesting because we we actually shot like 2 alternative endings. So I'm wondering if it's that.
Okay.
So I just wanted to, ask, with all said and done, like, what's just been the overall experience looking back on it?
Amazing. It's been like honestly something I can't even put into words. I think that I've always wanted to do a project like this and to finally be able to do that and to do horror and to be in New York and to work with such incredible actors. It's honestly been a dream come true.
Definitely. I mean, me personally, if I had the chance to be in a Goosebumps show, it would probably be just like the greatest thing ever. But I mean, it's just, I can imagine it's just such an incredible experience going from like beginning to end, just, all the different things you get to do in the show and then, promoting it. Yeah, I can only imagine.
It's been so fun. And so like supportive and loving, and I also love seeing online just like the fans' reactions to it. It's been great. It's been so well received, and I'm just like, oh, thank you. It's crazy, and it's so nerve-wracking to come into like a franchise that's already so loved. And I think, as an actor, you're just thinking, okay, like don't mess this up because you have a lot like riding on this, and so just seeing people actually love this season, it makes me so happy.
Absolutely. If you ever had the chance to, star in another Goosebumps episode and you had the choice of what book to do, like, would you have a preference?
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, because I always thought, like, so this season, like, ends with Gravesend High class of, like, 2025. And so I'm wondering if, maybe next season I'm like we're it's anthology, we're not going back, but if
hypothetically
hypothetically if we do something, I think it'd be really cool to kind of like do something. I know there's books where like the teacher turns into monsters. It's like My Friends Call Me Monster or something like that, and it's like And it also ties into the whole alien thing with like the teacher like hatching eggs. So I thought that could be really cool. I don't know. Just let me just text the writers real quick. I'm like, guys, I had. Yeah,
it's like, look, you guys are sitting on good ideas here. That's wonderful. I mean,
Actually,
I'm always curious
if when you got your script, if that's one of the things like when they tease this season. they showed a tree, but they also showed an egg. Was Egg Monsters from Mars something that they were supposed to do and then changed it? Because then the poster changed later. It's the same image, but they removed the egg. It's like they thought maybe they gave too much away, but then we never really got a Egg Monsters from Mars type alien episode, though.
Yeah, I don't know, because I think that I think the egg was more so of like what they throw up, and it was kind of this like egg creature thing. But the only thing that they were telling us was like, don't mention anything about aliens. Don't do, like, when you do an interview, just like keep it hush hush. So that was very something that they wanted to be this like grand reveal. So I don't even know if that image was supposed to come out.
Well, we're a very investigative sort in the Goosebumps community. So anything comes out, we're like, oh,
you're on it.
And you just get constant inboxes from people, like on my page all the time. People find something within the community, like, oh, did you see this? Do you want to talk about it? You know what this is? And I'm just like, okay.
Like, make
so I don't
video
have to investigate. Like, I just get things sent to me all the time. So
That's so great. No, and I love this. I love how you guys have this whole like Goosebumps community where you could just like talk about your favorite stuff, shows and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great place to just talk and, just have fun, really. It honestly is. And, the fact that, we always talk about this with the 90s stuff, but it's true for, this show. It's like this franchise is growing up with generations of kids, and this is Goosebumps for a new generation of, kids and young adults who may be interested in getting into it. We had some of the older stuff, but that's the beauty of a long-running franchise. So, hopefully this series is bringing in those brand new fans to read these books.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think you also said this earlier in our chat that you don't really even need like the prior knowledge of Goosebumps to kind of jump into this series because it is such a standalone. But if you do have that knowledge, it just makes it 10 times better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
definitely. You catch up on all the little Easter eggs and things that they add in, and it just makes for a very fun experience in just about every single way. So I definitely echo that. In terms of horror in general, Goosebumps is said and done. But I guess this is kind of a no-brainer question. Would you ever have interest in returning to the horror genre?
Yes. Absolutely.
Do you have any like favorite kind of horror? Like, I know you said you like analog horror, but like, is there like sort of a subgenre of horror
You
that
did
you
point out 80s, but 80s is a broad term because 80s and 90s is really when a huge horror boom hit. Because obviously you had Friday the 13th, and then you had Nightmare on Elm Street. You had Scream that came in the 90s, and so wide range of stuff that came out in the 80s to early 90s. But what's your favorite?
I don't know. I mean, it's really funny because I wasn't even allowed to watch horror when I was younger. So I think I feel so behind on like movies and stuff like that because I think that I've only kind of started rewatching like all of the classics like recently to kind of know my stuff. So yeah, but I think so when I was younger, I wasn't allowed to watch horror, so I think 80s dark fantasy is kind of the closest that I got to kind of that like eerie vibe. And then now I think just classics like there's The Shining, there's Carrie. There's just I'm like going down my list. I'm on Letterboxd. I'm like searching most iconic horror films and I love it. And even though I didn't watch movies, I also like I think that's why I'm so into like internet horror because like my mom wouldn't be so like, what are you doing on the internet?
Yeah.
It was kind of
We're talking like creepypasta horror, like Slender and
mainly ARGs would, it's like the scavenger hunt across the internet was always very intriguing to me. And I was also really into horror video games. So like Five Nights at Freddy's or like The Last of Us that I mentioned earlier, just like those kind of games like I really loved. So yeah, my my relationship with horror is like all over the place, but it's always been something that I've just loved and been drawn to, just kind of that darker, spooky, eerie feeling, you know?
Definitely.
So what's your, you said dark fantasy, so what are your, so are you talking about like maybe Labyrinth, or are you talking more like Dark Crystal?
Dark Crystal. Yeah.
Yeah. Or like, I was really obsessed with like the Neverending Story. Those
okay. Yep.
rock people, and that like girl just looking so majestic, and Falkor, that dog dragon person. And, you know, that's what I think when I think of like practical effects too, just like that, you know, because I remember seeing photos of like the actual dog dragon and just wanting him to be in my room and, you know, just adopt him. But things like that, you know, I've always kind of loved that stuff, that like practical effects, 80s, like everything is done, and what you see in person is what you see on camera. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Definitely.
It's named my favorite film of all time, Neverending Story.
Oh my god. We're on the page. It's like my favorite childhood film.
Absolutely. Well, it's a classic in every way. Another good film with practical effects.
It is. They just released the giant 4K replica Neverending Story. So it's basically like, it's really expensive, but there's only like, I think 2,500 or something made. There's not many. It's like the book from the film, but like a full replica with like the actual snake pendant on the front. It opens up. It's got like a script inside. It's got postcards. It's got like, it's probably the coolest thing they brought out for the 40th anniversary last year. So,
wow.
That's insane. Oh my gosh.
really cool.
That's so cool.
That is awesome. Has there been any word on any sort of gossip on a possible season 3 of Goosebumps?
I wish I knew. I wish I did. I wish I could tease something right now. I haven't heard anything. The girl who plays Alex on the show, Francesca Noel, she and I were like, we should make a video game. And so we keep texting like Rob Letterman to make a video game, and we're sending like, and then we all have like our catchphrase, and then we can have these special powers. So we're really pushing for this.
That's really cool. Well, if you ever need backup, you know, we'd be
Five Nights at Horrorland.
Oh,
I was gonna say.
there you go.
That'd be awesome. I'd be down for that. We'd be happy to help if ever need be.
Good. I'm gonna make a petition. I need you guys to sign it.
We'll sign it. We'll sign it 10 times. We'll go under like 5 different aliases. Max speed. Yeah, that's good. And I guess one final thing. Do you have anything just to say to all the Goosebumps fans out there that watched the show, enjoyed it, and you know, hoping to see more in the future?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for watching season 2. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for all of the love that we've been getting. I think so much love was put into the show, and so to see it be, like I said, so well received, and I hope you enjoyed all the little references and all the little things in there, and yeah, and we had a blast filming it. Truly, I think everyone involved with this project really loved just being there and being in the world of Goosebumps, and thank you for letting me immerse myself in this world.
Absolutely, and hopefully it won't be the last time. You know, there's always hope for the future. So, but that's going to do it for tonight's episode of the Goosebumps Crew Podcast. Galilea, thank you so much for joining us and talking some Goosebumps with us. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun. I'm glad I'm like slowly vanishing into the darkness at the end.
It's fitting.
You know?
But we'd be happy to, you know, if you ever want to come back on and talk some more Goosebumps, we'd be happy to have you back on. So, you know, thank you again. Unbelievably so.
Amazing. Yeah, I'd love that.
Absolutely. So thank you again to Galilea La Salvia. Go follow her on social media. We'll leave links in the description below. So go check out her social media, follow her, give her the support. She really does deserve it, as well as the rest of the cast of The Vanishing, because they're all awesome. And we're not just saying that because she's right here with us. But as always, make sure you follow Bjorn and Nick at Goosebumps, Fan, and Sean, respectively. If you like today's episode, make sure you have a like and comment. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on our audio platforms and social medias. All those links are in the description below. We'll have another episode of the podcast for you next week. But until then, this has been the Goosebumps Crew Podcast. And from all of us here, we want to wish you, as always, to take care, stay safe, and have a very scary day.